Hello and welcome to Access Chat. I'm delighted that we're joined today by Sabine Wachernig from Zero Project. I'm working with Sabine alongside others as part of a project we're doing with GIZ, but also Sabine is here to talk about partners in general and some of the stuff that's coming up, especially the super duper Zero Project conference in Vienna in not very many weeks' time. So, Sabine, welcome. It's great to have you with us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and for our viewers and listeners, more about the Zero Project as well?
Thank you very much, Neil. I'm happy to be here with you, also with Deborah and with Antonio. So thanks for having this conversation with you. I'm Austrian born, and I'm a trained lawyer and a trained expert in international relations. And for the past 20 years, I've been working in the development context, focusing on Eastern Europe, Central Asia, and then about 10 years focusing in Africa. And within that context, I did also do a lot of work for disability inclusion. I did also work, for example, for Light for the World, where I was CEO for Austria. And there we did a lot of, we had very beautiful programs for inclusive education and for healthcare, for eye health care. So I know the field of disability, and I know kind of a lot of parts of this world. I have not managed to be to every country, but to quite a lot. And I like very much in Zero Project, this combines very well together because we work from partners from Japan to California. And so there's a lot of countries in between. So that's to my person. And you wanted to ask something about Zero Project as well.
Yes, please, because I think that whilst we've had people on, it's been a while. And so we gain and lose listeners and so on. So yes, please explain what Zero Project is and the thinking behind the conference.
Thanks a lot. So Zero Project is organized, funded by the Essel Foundation, an Austrian charitable foundation, which is actually a very beautiful story. A family that decided that they want to give half of their money for a good cause, and they decided this together with all their children. And then they also decided to focus on one specific issue, and this was then disability inclusion. And they tried to see, when we now want to become an actor in this field, what is missing or what can we contribute that is not already there, that we do not double the work. And they found that there are a lot of very impressive people working in this field in different sectors, from non-governmental organizations to state agencies to big international organizations, companies. But that there are a lot of good things and innovative projects are going on. But they found that there is not a place where you bring everything together and where everybody can meet and exchange. And this is why Zero Project was founded then in 2013. With Zero Project, there was founded an annual conference which now has the aim to search and identify for the most promising innovations for disability inclusion. Every year there's a different cycle. So this in 6 weeks time, we'll 21st to 23rd of February, and you can follow everything online on YouTube. We'll have education as a focus. ICT, so information and communication technologies, every year a focus. Next year it will be work, and the year after that political participation. And every year, out of a pool from 10,000 experts in 120 countries around the world, we choose the most promising innovations that will be presented to a broad audience of multipliers from all over the world and all sectors, with the goal to network and with a very concrete goal to boost these innovations and to help them scale and to help them find partners. In a nutshell.
And it's a great conference. I've been a number of times. I'm looking forward to participating again. But the particular bit that we're interested in is obviously helping innovation scale and reducing duplication as well, because this is something that we often see in the industry and in the sector, is that, as you say, there are lots and lots of really impressive people doing wonderful bits of work, but the effort is often duplicated, so people are not aware of similar efforts in other countries. So I know that this has been something that Zero have been working on for a number of years, and originally you'd done work with Ashoka and so on. And in the last year, we've, ATOS and other partners like GIZ and Fundación Descúbreme, wanted to bring stuff together to look at how we can help speed up and scale more. So do you want to tell us a little bit about the work that you've been doing to pull together the scale up programs that you've been working on?
I'm very happy to. There was, as this conference over time emerged to a really big meeting place every year, 1,000 people from all over the world, and really kind of being the conference of multipliers. So everybody who comes there is in him, herself, a multiplier in her own context. We said we have a network of 10,000 experts. That's such a resource we have there. And how can we even more use that resource to support what we in the end want to do, help all these great programs and products scale and reach the audience to improve the lives of persons with disability. And this is why we started Scaling Solutions. Format, it was called, as you mentioned, Neil, it was called Impact Transfer before that. And out of our awardees, or shortlisted awardees, because this year we got more than 500 nominations, we screen them and we choose the best innovations that we can help scale, that are scalable, that are already in a good stage where you have already very good working models, and that just need kind of this little stepstone to scale to other countries. So we have first a long process to select these candidates, and then they get a training, so an upskills training for marketing, for pitching, for business plan development, because there are also a lot of projects and products from middle and low income countries that are not yet so, where the companies are not yet so sophisticated. So we try to do the training and then to put them together and to pair them and partner them with contacts from our network, from ATOS network, from GIZ network, from the Descúbreme network in Latin America. So to really help them scale to other countries, and so that you, as you say, you don't have to double the effort. And when you have a great innovation that is working and has a proven record, then we try to support it as much as we can. And for this, we started to do the Scaling Solutions. And we're very happy to have ATOS on board and others as well. And others are lining up and join. So we're really happy to see that.
Deborah, I know you had a question.
Well, and I sort of have a question. I'd like if we can step back a couple of steps, because I just want to talk a little bit more about Zero Project and how we got to this point. Because I know when I first heard about Zero Project, I was so excited about the efforts that were being made. And I thought, what a good idea to really try to find out who is really making a difference with the focus on developing countries. And so I remember seeing it and just being so happy the Zero Project was there. I forget how many years that y'all have been in existence, but it's been a while, 15, maybe?
2030, so 13, so 11th.
Wow. Right. It seems even longer, but it's amazing how much that has been accomplished. Yeah. But I also, another thing that as I started really paying attention to Zero that I really appreciated, and you and Neil are talking about it right now, was how it was the collaboration. So that was very interesting to me, because I just don't think there's any way to move forward if we don't work together. And so, and a couple of years ago, actually the year my husband was dying, I was made one of your ambassadors, and it was such a huge honor, high honor. And I'm invited to do all kind of things, but I was really touched by this specific one because I really think that Zero Project's really making a difference. And I know that as one of your ambassadors, I've really been focused on trying to bring more corporations into these conversations, because ATOS, once again, has showed us how a corporation can come in and help us really achieve our goals. But I'd like to really see more corporations being more involved. And it's always interesting to me because I know you'll have four different themes, as you said. And often I'll hear, oh, well, the corporate's not really they're not going to be interested in the independent living theme. And I say, well, that's something that they're missing the boat then, because our corporate brand should actually be involved in every single one of these, because they have a part to play in all of them, including, for example, technology companies have a part to play in us being able to age in place and live independently. So I'm hoping more corporate brands will show leadership like ATOS is, and others. I see others. I know this year I invited Indeed to come. Really excited about Donna speaking there. But I'd actually like to see more corporate brands getting engaged with programs that our community believe is making a difference. So I'm just I shout out to those corporations. They don't have very many corporate leaders involved, and actually corporations, you should be watching what Neil is doing. If Neil gets involved in projects, that's a cue. You probably should have already been there. Just saying. And Neil's not
late to the party.
Well, I'm just saying, because we are watching which brands are engaging. We are watching, we are noticing, and we're noticing what you're being engaged with and whether or not we really believe it adds any value to us. I see quite a bit of American companies making decisions that we don't really think is adding value to our community. So I just wanted to do some of that shout out first also, and talk a little bit, Sabine, about the journey it took to get to the point, 11 years, where y'all realized you did need to work on something like this. You did need to do it because it isn't being done out there. We see brands doing hackathons with us and stealing our ideas and then never doing anything. We don't benefit. And so I'm excited about what I see happening. I was there last year for your first one that David Baines led. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And y'all found so much talent, but the problem that we have in our community is ongoing. It is funding issues. And I had an investor one time tell me, Deborah, do you have funding issues, or do you also not really know how to really use those funds to achieve the goals? Well, I'm just saying, and it was, at the time, it hurt my feelings when she said it, but she was right. She was right. And so I think I just wanted to make sure the audience understood that this is built. What they're doing right now, what we're talking about here, this is layered. This is many years of listening to our community, trying to understand what our real needs are. How do you really help us? How do you big corporations really help our community? How do you even know if you are helping our community? Well, one way you know is if you go to Zero Project, they care about our community, and they showed that over and over. And even though I believe, Sabine, y'all had about 2,000 people in person, maybe that's a little high last year, there was 12,000 people that attended virtually.
Yes.
So, wow, that right there shows you something, and it's our community. So I just wanted to give you a shout out about that.
Thanks.
And yeah, but also my question is, so I would assume some of this is, once again, the reason why you are doing this is because you are seeing that
there is a need.
Right, there's a need. But do you mind just talking a little bit about why you saw that need and what the need is, if you don't mind? Thank you.
Okay, I personally have not been there, so that would be Michael Fembeck and Martin Essel, who were there really when they founded it. Who did really an amazing job. But as far as I understood, it started all with research, and this is still a cornerstone of our program. Research on what is out there and what do we need and what could be our place. And with this research, it started to develop a network. People you ask, people you know, and then you get advice from different sides. And then it, of course, you cannot be only researching, you also need to do something with what you research. Martin Essel, he had before that with his company, he gave a social prize. So the idea of giving a prize awarding was already there. And so they decided what research we want to give a prize to that. And then there started this movement, people meeting together. And we had pretty soon the luck that the United Nations took us over kind of, so that they provided us with their premises. So we were under the umbrella of the United Nations, which was very helpful. And I think one contribution was also that people like very much to travel to Vienna. And it's also a place where you can easily come and from all parts of the world. And so it started to become this meeting place. And I think from the beginning on, it was what you just mentioned before, this word collaboration. Because there are other conferences where there is the tech industry meeting or the NGOs meeting or the UN and agencies meeting and the state agencies meeting. And the special thing of Zero Project was right from the beginning to have everybody there, all sectors, self-representative organizations. You had persons with disabilities, without disabilities joining the conference from all parts of the world, all sectors, all societies, companies, private sector, social sectors, governmental sector. And I think it's really something about this spirit. It was the spirit of collaboration. And whenever you are there, and I guess Neil and you can testimony about that people are just simply together and searching together. There is not we're in competition or this is a secret and I cannot tell you. And it's really also, in my experience, working with the also big multilateral companies who everybody has their own development department. There is never a spirit of competition. There's always a spirit of collaboration. How can we together progress? And I think that's the unique spirit, that's the secret of success also behind this. With the research, with the expert, it has to be really on a sound basis, which we also have established. And this is kind of the homework we have to do, that it's really high quality that we can provide in our work. And then to provide this platform for everybody to meet and share. I think this is the success story. And as very often you start somewhere and then this thing becomes its own dynamic. And that's the same with our Scaling Solutions program, for example, because we had this network, and this is a big resource. And then we thought, what can we do with it now? How can we best make use of it? And so then there already is a lot of ideas jumping around. For example, a very interesting development that we see right now within Zero Project is scaling, that we do direct scaling support. And also regionalization, because the Vienna conference is global. It's all countries, basically, I guess almost all countries in the world that are somehow connected, related to Zero Project. And there is also a trend of regionalization. We will have a Latin America conference in May, a Zero Project Latin America conference with this Kubrame. There was the first and will be the next India conference in Delhi in September. We started to work with Singapore because solutions, it needs global solutions and global meeting places, but also regional ones. We also like very much to work with Enable Kenya. They also have their regional conference to share innovations for Africa. This is also a development we see where, and this is now also our next step to progress.
Right. And that's one reason why I wanted you to talk about it, because this is years in the making. And I know Antonio has a question, but I also want to know from Neil, why did ATOS, and so I'm sorry, Antonio, but to both of you, Neil and Antonio, why did ATOS decide that they were going to step in when we didn't see corporate brands in these conversations?
Well, partly because we're an outsourcing company, and we'd been working with GIZ on innovation competitions where we actually collaborated with Zero already, and Zero were doing similar things. So we thought, why not outsource some of this? and work in partnership, because actually the education part and the structure around the scaling and teaching the entrepreneurs how to develop the skills to take their projects and their businesses to the next level was frankly delivered better by organizations that deal with entrepreneurs and startups and scale-ups than enormous multinationals, because we're already at scale. So that there's a different kind of mindset and mentality and need. So it works really well. And we were combining forces rather than, again, as we were talking about at the beginning, duplicating efforts. So it's really about making sure that we try and connect the dots as much as possible, and don't waste everybody's energy by doing the same things multiple times in different places and competing with each other. We can collaborate. Simple as that.
Antonio.
One of the topics that I'm very interested is about scaling and growing. Deborah is calling us from a country that is being very savvy in its scaling organization and startups. The example of ChatGPT is a great example that just in a couple of months was able to go around the world, and in a simple way, everyone is able to create an account. Somebody was able to start using it. I work from the south of Ireland, who is also known for being one of the European countries being able to scale some of its startups. So what we need to do in the industry, in the space of where we work, to have startups in the accessibility space who are able to reach that level of reaching global recognition, scaling internationally. Do we need more investors? What do we need to make it happen?
You're talking now about the Scaling Solution Program.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. We are one. We help on several steps. It's the Scaling Solution Program is not directed towards the Googles and the Microsofts of this world. They have their own development and sales companies. We can help in important steps. For us, the homework we do, it's important that we select kind of the right candidates that have a good product that is providing a large impact, that is innovative, and that is scalable. We already need a certain level of development here, already certain models that are ready, not just idea stage. So we try to select the right products in the right stage. This is what we from Zero Project, that's important. And then what we can do, we cannot provide for everything, but what we can provide with our consultancy company, Inclusive Creation from Norway, to do an upskills program with them so that they learn. These are not companies that that are already very well developed and have all departments and super defined processes and structures. They're on an earlier stage in their development. And so one important thing is always education, forming people, forming the mindsets of people, forming the mindsets of leaders, supporting the leaders in their thinking to be able to clearly define what is our USP, what questions do I need to ask to possible investors, what questions will they ask me, how can I respond, what would be my growth strategy, where do I want to grow. So we really do this business development aspect with them, work a lot with the mindset of a leader, how the organization needs to be structured so that you have the capacities to do that. So really, that's kind of what I always call doing the homework. You have to have your own acts together in order to reach out. So internal always prioritize over external. And And when this is said and done, then we do the next step. What we can provide is putting them in contact with our network. We have 10,000 plus experts in 120 countries. There might be somebody who is interesting for these companies and organizations, and also our partners with ATOS, with GIZ, with this Kubreme. So first thing is try to form them, the mindset and the capacities. And the next step is bringing them in to have a strategy, to know what they want, know what to ask and whom they need to ask, and then to put them in contact with the right people. And then they have to do the work. So to scale and to have a successful project, it has to be realistic. It needs a lot of time. You need to be very persistent and patient and see it grow.
I think now, and looking back to the history of guests that we have done Access Chat, I think it's also important that we realize that it's also important to do some work educating investors, calling investors' attention to the importance of the work that is being done here. I think that will be an element that also needs to happen. Yeah.
Investors, talking about Zero Project and the different sectors, everybody there. One sector we are not so strong yet are investors. We have identified this as well, and this will also be one of our main focus for the future, to bring investors to the conference. Of course, the money is needed.
And if we think that female entrepreneurs are underfunded, then you can multiply that for the disability community, because disabled founders are the least funded of any of the groups of founders. So it's really important that not only do we teach the skills, but we help them get access to the funding, and that we educate the people that are doing the funding, that the startups and the entrepreneurs have the skills, because there's an element of ableism in the tech community, making the assumption that because people are disabled, they don't have the entrepreneurial skills, which is far from the case. But unfortunately, venture capital has in the past, for the most part, flowed into the arms of male and mainly men, mainly white or from parts of Asia, where tech has a reputation. So we definitely need that to change. I do think that there is a difference with impact investing. They're clearly much more focused on how their money can usefully be the catalyst for change. I differentiate between venture capital and impact investment, and I think that it's the impact investors that we need to engage at this point. And as those investments become more successful, venture capital follows wherever they think they're going to get a return. So you demonstrate the return, and suddenly they get interested.
Right. And we like to call them VCs or vulture capitalists here. Because they are not helping. And as a matter of fact, we have seen vulture capitalists quite a bit in the accessibility field, spending ridiculous amounts of money on things that do not help our community at all. So it is interesting, because I see the groups that are investing and not investing and what they're investing in. And it's very obvious to us about what you care about based on your investments. And so I'm looking forward to working with investors that actually want to make a difference in the world. And that's not what we're always seeing. I also want to make a comment that just based on what you had said, Neil, too, and that you're correct, and that you think it's bad for women getting funding. Oh, so much worse for people with disabilities. And then, of course, even within the disability community, we have our elites, and we all are elites here because we are working. We are able to have our voices be heard. And but there's so much of our community that are not seen, and that cannot go to conferences. They can't. There's so many barriers that they have. And so I'm looking for some more enlightened investors stepping into these conversations, because there is so much money being spent on disabilities. It's staggering how much money is being spent, but at the It's not very effective. And I also want to say that once you get into disabilities, you really start looking at disabilities, you start considering the diversity, and it gets worse for us. So if you are a white person with a disability in a developed country, you might actually, that has some financial resources yourself or your family, you're going to have a better chance than if you're a woman in another country that has a disability and they're blind and they have 3 children, their husband left them. That's just one that recently came to me. But it's getting harder for me to look sometimes at the disability leaders because it feels like we're a little bit too elite ourselves, and we need to really understand the billions that are not being included. Yeah. So when I see a lot of leadership happening at Zero Project, but I also see a lot of conference goers, people just jump in a conference, and I don't really know what happens after those conferences and if there's any value. Now, I do know a Zero Project that there is actually research that comes out, and I get books and I get data, and I get to meet people that are trying to make a difference. But I'm just really getting discouraged by the conferences the conference goers. We watch you going to conferences over and over and over and over again, but we're just not sure that at the end of the day, if you're helping our community or not.
True. Yeah.
Sorry, sorry, that wasn't.
No, you don't have to.
That wasn't aimed at whether Zero Project is helping the community. This is
Zero is one.
The people. Sometimes you get people on the speaking circuit. And so that happens where you spend more time speaking than doing. And I think that there needs to be a balance, right? Because we do need to speak. We do need leadership. And when we have privilege, use it for the right purpose.
Yes.
Right? Because I'm privileged and I'm trying to use my privilege as a white, middle-class educated male to be able to extend the ladder for people to climb up rather than pull it up behind me.
Right.
So I think that, we want to see the people that are participating in these events take the learnings that they have and the conversations that they have and implement them into action. And I think that that's what Sabine and we're trying to do through actions like scaling and partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Over to you, Sabine.
And the feedback we get, you never get feedback from everybody, but we get each year so many emails, texts, comments about thanks for so many interesting people they met they would otherwise never meet, and for so many interesting conversations they had. And there are a lot, thousands of follow-ups. Not everyone, but I think that there is a lot of positive change generated through this conference. And one of the trends we also experienced is we also have an increased focus, as I mentioned in the beginning, on low and middle income countries, because we see there the need is the most to be visible. And to bring them on stage and give them this platform, for example, and that's really good. And there are really interesting developments. That's with the regional conferences for Latin America to have their solutions and their connections. For India, which is extremely exciting in the moment, it's the most populous country, 1.4 billion people, and also they have skilled labor, but are also on a more medium-low income context because there are just simply so many. They're striving to search for low-cost solutions that are highly scalable. So that's why it's for us very interesting, and we also want to form a cooperation with India in the future. More ties with that, because what they develop and learn, you can then easily apply to Africa and to this context. So that's one step from our side. We try to have positive effects on the whole ecosystem. And I agree with you, impact investors. This is really one of our next working fields where we really have to put a focus on.
Thank you so much. We've reached the end of our time. Sabine, I'm sure we're going to have a fun discussion on social media. And I really look forward to continuing the conversations here and at Zero Project and into the future. So thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much. And I hope to see you in Vienna and everybody else live on YouTube live stream.
And of course, a big thanks to our pals at MyClearText and at Amazon for keeping us captioned and keeping us online.
Yes. Go Zero Project. We love you. We love you guys.
Thank you very much. Bye.